What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and this is the BKER Bar Podcast live stream. And here we are, episode 96. And today's guest, you guys all know Brian Kennedy from BKXC, so I don't need to do much of an introduction on that end of it. But before we get started, let's go ahead and throw out some of the normal beginning of the podcast stuff. First of all, I apologize to everybody. It's been a little sporadic. The summer has been busy. There's been a lot of things going on, and it is what it is. But here we are, and looks like at least the next month and a half, solid bookings. So it'll stay on target for the next for the next bit. And I'm assuming probably all the way through the winter at this point. Summer just gets, it's fun to do stuff, and it's hard to do a podcast when it's more fun to do other stuff. So here we are. Anyways, if you guys want to do me a favor and support the channel, hit the subscribe button. That does a great job, and it's free. Free to you, free to me, free to everybody. If you enjoy the content as we're chatting, you get a good chuckle about something, or you're like, man, this is good stuff, hit the thumbs up button. It's not that hard. Also free. If you want something else that like a little extra content, you can swing by Instagram or Facebook. Give me a follow over there. For some reason, I cannot get 1,000 followers on Facebook. So if you're one of the over 40 club that listens to this and is like, man, I'd like to see some more for free, go to Facebook and hook it up. That would be awesome. Outside of that, let's see here. There's this other thing called Patreon. For $1 a month, you can be part of the Patreon group and help me out there. That would be great. You get access to coupons that I have, and if you want to do a little bit more, put some beer in the fridge, then that would be rad. You could do that. There's a $5 club. And then there's also another tier that gives you a whole bunch of swag. I can't even mention it all, but it's a bunch of stuff on there. If you really want to be a Uber fan and really support the hell out of the channel, that would be great too. Outside of that, I got something new going on, but first I got to tell you a little story about it. So my great grandfather was a Sasquatch, and my grandfather then lost a little bit of that hair, and he moved down to being like the monkey boy in a carnival show. And eventually you get to me, and I am an extremely hairy person. So that I don't get poached while I'm out mountain biking, I have to do a little shaving here and there. And because of my lineage, Manscaped.com hit me up, and they're like, hey, we got this body trimmer that you could try out and see if it works for you. And guess what? It does. And it's actually priced not too bad. And if you guys have been thinking about picking one up, you can go ahead over to manscaped.com and you can get 20% off and free shipping, and also help support the channel that way. So right now they're extending that offer out for the next month. So I only have a month. You only have a month. Use the coupon. And I will say this. I was really not sure whether or not they had this whole no nick kind of thing going on where they're like, oh, you're not going to cut yourself with this thing. And I really thought it was kind of bullshit, to tell you the truth, because I've been shaving the old back and chest and whatever for years, and always ends up happening. And I honestly didn't cut myself with this thing. So there's something to it. I will say, if you're in a hurry and you're getting out of control, trying to do some kind of indie haircutting race, it's probably going to happen. But otherwise, you take care of yourself, you'll be all right. So anyway, swing by manscaped.com, use code BKER, B1KER, get yourself 20% off and free shipping, help the channel. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and bring the man of the hour up here. What's up, Brian?
I'm here. Thank you for
man?
having me. I'm doing fantastic.
Dude, there's so much that has been going on in your life. I don't even know where to start. But I think just a minute ago, I think that we were talking about the fires going on here in California, and I thought that was pretty interesting. And I think that the first thing that kind of leads into what you've been doing with your life lately. But first of all, thanks to all those firefighters that are out there. California is out of control right now. I mean, if you're from Northern California and you look at the map, just the Coldwater fire, which is the one that's closest to us, for those of you that aren't from around here, that thing has burned 150,000 acres, where we have another one that's burned close to 800,000 acres. And that Coldwater fire, which is the smaller one, has claimed more structures already than the bigger one. But going where we ride, like up in Tahoe, it's like miles and miles and miles of you driving at 60 miles an hour on the freeway that is burned. Where it's like, it is really hard to wrap your head around looking at it. You know what I'm saying, Brian?
It's going to be crazy to go back there again for the first time. Sarah and I, when we were on our honeymoon, we drove back on Highway 50, and I've always wanted to do the hike where you're coming down 50 and it's really beautiful, and there's the granite, and there's that Pyramid Creek. It's like a waterfall. You just see it like out of the corner of your eye. And when we came back from our honeymoon, it was perfect. There was nobody. It was like a Monday morning or a Tuesday morning. So I'm like, let's go do this hike. I've seen cars parked at this place all the time. So we pulled off the highway and did the hike, and it was beautiful. And now looking at Google Maps, it's like that area has burned now.
Yeah.
Just because it's burned doesn't mean the whole thing's destroyed. It could be, okay, kind of, sort of, but it's going to be so interesting to see, like, how it's going to progress. And I had been checking all the stuff because up near Everstoke and Graygle, that's the Dixie Fire is like north, pretty far north. Quincy's like 30 minutes, that whole area. But now I keep checking the maps and it's starting to move south. And it's like, what the heck? You can't win. Like, it's just a matter of time with these fires.
Yeah, you guys had just bought that property. So for those of you that somehow don't watch BKXC's channel and listen to this podcast, him and another YouTuber purchased 90 acres of land up in that area, and what is exactly that you guys plan on doing up there?
Oh man, we got a lot of ideas. I would hope that, and anything can change, but we're gonna build some trails for sure. But I really want to build like camping sites, van sites, cabins, that kind of stuff, so people can come up and ride all the trails there's amazing trails all surrounding that area. The Lost Sierra, there's like all the Graygle, Mills Peak, Jameson Creek. On the other side, there's Downeyville. Up north, there's Mount Huff, but that got burned in the fire, hopefully not completely destroyed. So there's just a million things. There's tons of rides. It's only an hour from Truckee, so there's a ton of rides that are in that area. It would be a great place to come to camp out, to stay in a cabin or something, but also kind of have our own little Disneyland area where there's fun trails and features and different things that, maybe are just fun for a day. It's not like we're building the best bike park ever and it's going to be ridiculous and you're going to spend $800 to come there and all that stuff. It's more of a hangout spot, a camp out spot, and that's the plan, and it has been tons of work. It's been awesome. It's so rewarding. Every day we go out there, we just make a little bit of progress. Aaron is just amazing. He is the biggest animal, hardworking guy ever. He's a great partner.
That's. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Started reading the comments. They were like, hey, Robert's volume's not loud enough. So hopefully I've straightened that out. If not, let me know and I'll fix it.
Nah, that always tough.
So it's always tough to know because this application doesn't have a good way to show me what our levels are.
Yeah, and you sound perfectly fine in my ears, but I can't hear myself.
Right. Yeah. So anyways, what I was going to say though is I hadn't been to your property until, I don't know, a few weeks after, or whatever, month or so after you guys kind of announced it. And I also had never been to Mills Peak. So I had been obviously to Downeyville and I had ridden Mount Huff, but both times, like when you drive there from where I live, it's like 3 hours, right? And similar to like going to Mills Peak, it's like 3 hours, right?
Definitely.
So I never really knew how close those three places were to each other. And I went up and I was actually camping kind of close to your property, and I was just like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
Now I know why you guys bought where you did. Like, it is so rad. Like, we were staying right by there basically, and like one day we drove to Downeyville, one day we drove to Mills Peak, one day we drove to Huff, and it was like a super sweet weekend.
Those are just banner rides right off the bat. And the whole Sierra Buttes Trail Stewardship has like 90 miles of approved trails they just have to fund and do, versus, a lot of places have plans for trails, but these are actually approved. Environmental impact reports are all done. They just have to actually get in there and dig. So it's like this region, they want to connect all the different communities, and hopefully the fires don't destroy that entire thing, but it's it's already great, but the future is even brighter.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing how things play out on your property, and it's for me, it's like the videos that you're releasing right now are pretty close to about where it was when I was there.
Yeah.
So I'm actually now like being able to like watch it like everybody else and be like, oh, okay, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
It's like super exciting to kind of see it all play out.
Yeah, it's very bare bones. It's very rustic. It's like there's only a certain level of person that really can take punishment, that can hang out and camp out. Like the past couple days, 95 degrees, like both days. It cools off at night so nice, but it's like it just beats the hell out of you. How dusty it is and all that stuff. But we'll fix that little by little.
Yeah, and it's not too like it definitely does cool down up there at night, so that's nice. What how's the smoke been?
It's bizarre. It's been fine. There's been days like last night. It just blew in, like the wind changed and it blew in. Aaron and I were up higher on the property. We're taking some trees down and knocking some limbs down, and then all of a sudden it like moved in. You could feel it and taste it, and it's like whoa. But most days that we've been out there, you look straight up and the sky is blue. It's just maybe the elevation is just weird enough, and the wind pattern is just weird enough that we've been fine. And just even driving up, almost every time we've driven up, it's like, oh my God, smoke, 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 smoke. And then you make it to Sierra Valley and you get up a little bit higher, and it's been fine there. There's been a couple days where it's like, am I feeling this? Is this it? Is it the smoke or not? But then you look around, it's like, hey, it's not that crazy.
It's easy to get in your head about that.
Yes,
stuff, you know?
yes. Like it's like we all think we have COVID. Anytime you like run out of breath, when you, especially up there, it's at 4,000 feet. We're getting more acclimated the more we're up there and stuff. Right. But like you climb up a hill and you're like, oh, the lungs, my lungs are going. I must have COVID.
Yeah, right. Totally. Oh man. Yeah, I know. I've gotten that way. I was actually just riding in Auburn the other day, and it was pretty smoky, and not COVID, but it was like I started getting in my head just anxiety because of the. Like, am I out of breath right now because I'm kicking my ass up this hill?
Yeah.
Or am I like, am I not feeling right because there's too much smoke in there and I shouldn't actually be out here riding? You know what I'm saying?
It's so nasty because you just think about, like, I remember, this is like a secondhand story, but there was some like professional type racer, like mountain biker, and everybody was like sitting around a campfire, and he was like, there's no amount of money you could pay me to go sit around a campfire, because you're just like, you're breathing in that smoke. When we like love it, it's so fun to like sit around the campfire, but it's like, oh wow, you're right. But then do not take this as of gospel whatsoever. But I remember like last summer or 2 summers ago when it was crazy, even here in Vallejo, like where you couldn't even see across the street, and it was like just the wind changed just enough, and I was looking up, okay, how unhealthy is this? Okay, it's 300, it's max, it's the worst thing. And it was like 8 hours is worth 1 cigarette. I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense. That's nothing. You could spend 8 hours in the smoke and it would only hurt you as much as 1 cigarette. So don't take that. I would need to go back and look at the charts and stuff. It obviously seems way worse than that. But when I saw that, I was like, people smoke cigarettes constantly. Like this, whatever.
Now I'm in.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. That's totally wrong. It's just something I read where I was like, what? Huh?
I know.
Maybe it was a pack. Pack isn't.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, whatever. I know that. I remember last year was really bad too, and I remember thinking at the beginning, like when it would get to like red or maroon on the AQI level, I'd be like, oh, I'm not going out there. And then like a month into the fire season, I was like, it could be like purple and black, and I just have to get outside. I'm riding, you know?
And you remember that was the first time we saw people other than really old Asian ladies wearing masks, like in public. You know, like that was like such a weird thing when you would see young people wearing a mask and just random normal people wearing masks. The Asian ladies were obviously on the forefront of it because they were protecting everyone else, or like, you know, filtering their own stuff, because it's more what do you call it? Respectful. Like we've all learned that it's like, hey, if I'm feeling sick, I'm going to put this mask on and help everybody else. They were ahead of the game.
Ahead of the game. That's funny. Yeah, the other downside that MTV NorCal actually just mentioned in the comments is that it's like totally ruined the last part of summer. And normally during the fire season, it's you can still kind of like I would normally get up in the morning, pull up the AQI map, and then look and say, oh, well, like Santa Rosa's cool, I can drive over there. Or,
there's somewhere.
Yeah, but lately it has been so bad in California. It's like Nope, it's bad everywhere. It's
Yeah,
like
and
no sense to drive anywhere.
they actually closed the national forest. So it's like, I saw that alert when it was like, Tahoe National Forest. But then you look at the map, Tahoe National Forest is like all the way out to Grouse Ridge. It's Downeyville. It's like everything. And then Plumas National Forest is closed. And that's Mills Peak. That's all this other stuff. And it's like, whoa. And that's closed till September 6th. I was going to go for a ride, and I rode up there, and I was like, oh, there's sign, no, close. It's like, ah. And it was like a day when it wasn't that smoky, where it's like, this is a perfect, beautiful day.
Yeah. I think it's been interesting. You were saying earlier too, I was going to ask you about seeing it after it burns. I know all those fires went through Napa last year. Have you been up to Oat Hill Mine since that happened?
No, I don't think I have been back up to Oat Hill Mine since that burn. Yeah.
I went up there at the beginning of this season. Well, I guess it would have been like during the winter, because it's, once it starts snowing in Tahoe, it's like, okay, start riding everything local. And it was insane to climb up there, because basically that used to be probably my favorite view of all views mountain biking. Like, I mean, even compared to like being up in the mountains, it's just like, was really beautiful to look down Napa Valley and how green it was, and all the vineyards. And like, you look, everything off the right hand side when you're climbing is all black. Like, it looked like
because my only memory of that was that they bulldozed that first part, because that used to be more of a trail, and then they had to bulldoze it all to kind of get the fire thing. But I honestly can't even remember. I'm sure I rode with Sarah, so it's been less than a year if I did. Yeah. So I guess my perspective wasn't as ruined as yours.
Yeah, it blew my mind. Maybe I was up there where it was like, I mean, it's
still fresh.
Like,
yeah.
And like, it was just like everything was gone. And the last time I had been there was like, everything was green, and like, like in your old videos when you first were doing it, it's like canopy over you on that whole farm, So
it's interesting. The whole climate, the whole climate change thing, all the fires, and it's going to be so interesting. And the time scale is just always crazy. Like when we go to our property, it's amazing because you could tell it's been logged out. It's got a lot of big trees and stuff, but who knows how old these trees are? 20 years old, 50 years old, 150 years old, and everything's grown. There's young stuff growing up, there's old stuff dying out, and it's just a matter of that whole cycle. We think we're bigger than it, and we think that like, oh no, it has to stay the same. It's like North America had like a mile high sheet of ice on it for most like 50,000 years ago or something like that. Things are always changing. Not that it sucks, climate change and all that stuff, but this whole planet's the sun's gonna explode in a couple billion years. Like all of it is very ephemeral.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's it changes, I think it changes slowly, and I don't know. It's like it's interesting to see the take from everybody, and like we could all be right now saying it's like climate change or whatever, and like 20 years from now, somebody like learns about some new like bacteria that's been growing, and that's like really what it all is. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things as humans that we think that we are all over it, and we're like totally wrong.
Yeah, and I definitely worship at the altar of technology, and I always feel like we hit these weird walls. We think, oh my God, like oil, and then we're going to move past it. We're just going to find ways. If all of our energy is put into it, and we can do so many amazing things, and the way technology is moving forward, it's like, I'm not too worried about it. I am hopeful that we'll all band together and attack it together kind of thing, which has never happened in the history of the world over anything. So it'd be cool if we did.
Yeah, it definitely would be interesting. So you were saying that, at the forefront of technology. Did you see that Tesla announced having a robot? They were going to build a robot.
Yeah, it's really quite amazing. Optimus Prime, I think it was called.
Yeah, well, that's right. He did have some kind of name that was like.
Yeah,
I forget about that.
Tesla's just sneaking through where people still don't believe, and it's a big enough cult. It's like you just have to think back. What was it? 2003, 2004. We all had different cell phones that were all pieces of crap. There was the Nokia, there was the BlackBerry, and there was a million Kyocera. There was a million of those. The Sidekick, and all of them were crappy. And the iPhone came out, changed the game. created a giant market share, took over, and we don't even remember like, oh yeah, the iPhone, we kind of think about it, and we kind of like, yeah, that was cool, the iPhone came out. It just destroyed this entire incumbents of all these people that had all these billions of dollars of market cap, and that is just going to keep happening and happening and happening, and Tesla is so positioned to own so many markets. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. And plus, you're up there working with Aaron, and anybody that knows Aaron, there's two things he likes to talk about: mountain biking and Tesla.
And Elon Musk. Yep, exactly.
Pick one.
Exactly. He's got the Tesla solar panels. He's got the Tesla Model 3. He's got the Cybertruck on order. Like, it's pretty amazing. And I believe it too. It's just I haven't put my money where my mouth is, which is funny. There's still people on the sidelines where it's like, if we can get a giant solar array at the property, then I'll probably get a Tesla, just because then you could charge it up there overnight and be free and clear. I'll probably need a charge along the way as well. But
you mentioned that on the last video. Is that the direction that you guys are headed?
Yeah, for sure, because it's just not. It's possible, but there's just all these like $20,000 items. Like, okay, let's get electricity to the property. It's probably $20,000 to pipe it over and string it up and not even run a trench or anything like that, or dig a well. And luckily we have a well on the property, so we're going to try to work it as much as we can. But that's like a $20,000 item too. So with $20,000 worth of solar, you can do a lot, especially for our low footprint of what we want to do, and then eventually make it even bigger and bigger, because if you're going to have people coming up in 5-10 years, so many people are going to have electric cars. It'd be cool to have that infrastructure, because there's a ton of sun up there. We can definitely harness the sun.
So you would build like a, let's just call it like a shade structure.
Yeah.
And then you would have some kind of like battery bank or like,
yeah. So it's really neat. Like, so I just did a video on Patreon. It'll come out next week about this little power bank thing that I got from this company called Blue Eddy. So when I first built the van, they had power bank type things where you could plug solar in, but now it's like 2 years later and they're way better. Everything's amazing now. So I'll have a video about that next week. But yeah, basically the idea is you get all these solar panels, and that gives you DC energy. So you kind of have to store that energy, because we're off grid. If you want to do anything at night, you got to store it in batteries. But if you want to do stuff during the day, you could just if you have the right inverter and you have the right system, you could just plug it in during the day. The sun's out, and turn a computer on, work at everything. But yes, the batteries are a huge component in making that system actually sustainable, so the batteries charge up during the day and can get drained down at night. And the more batteries you have, the more awesome your system is. So batteries are super expensive. Solar panels aren't as expensive as you think, and the inverter stuff, that part is expensive, but the batteries, if you really want a badass system, it's the batteries that are going to be the very expensive part.
So you would get like the Tesla battery or something like that?
Maybe, but I think Tesla wants it to be all in its own ecosystem. So there's other companies that kind of build their own. There's a website called BigBattery.com where you can just buy some massive, giant $4,000 batteries, and this will run your refrigerator and your oven and your skill saw for 10 hours and be good to go.
They were saying with that new the Ford Lightning, that if you have your power go out, that the batteries on the truck, if they were full, it would be enough to run your whole house for like 3 days. Exactly,
because those cars are massive, crazy big batteries. They're just massive batteries compared to anything else in like a residential or commercial application. So that is it's eventually there. Like, we've all heard about it for so long and we're all into it, but this is where it actually turns, and you're like, okay, let's do this. Let's see how it works.
Yeah, I'm like right there on the cusp of that stuff. It's like, my house needs a new roof probably in the next like 5 years. So I've been really like trying to like do some research to figure out, like, I'd love to get those like it's like the actual shingles are like cells. Yeah. So it doesn't look like you have a bunch of like solar panels up there. Instead, it just looks like a roof. There's
a house in Benicia that I pass when I visit my mom and dad, and they were working on it for a while, but it's very cool. It looks awesome. It's just black. And then, you wait another year, it's cheaper, except for if the federal stuff expires or whatever.
But I could see that being awesome. Like, to wrap that back into the like forest fire thing, like, think about like if every house in America had panels on its roof, like every building that's out there had panels on its roof.
It has to happen eventually, because it's just so decentralized. There's not a giant grid that can go down. It's just backwards thinking so far that it hasn't, just like you could say in 1980, everyone's going to have a cell phone someday. You're like, well, yeah, my grandpa has a car phone because he's a big businessman, but what do I need a car phone for? You're friggin' full of it. But I fully imagine whenever I fly and I get the window seat, which isn't often, I like the aisle seat, but and you look down at all those roofs that are just completely empty. It's a total crazy thing. And at least for California, PG&E will eventually go bankrupt because they're starting all these fires and they all get traced back. And it's like, okay, that's okay because we can all create our own little
that's what I was thinking,
residential
like,
power systems.
Right. If people all had that on their homes and their businesses, like I'm pretty sure that Aaron said like the amount of electricity that he generates compared to what he consumes is like most of the time he's actually giving power back to the power station.
Exactly. And there's so many factors here. So like if you have a highly efficient house that's been built like nicely in the past few years, it's like game on because all the building science stuff now is ridiculous where they can make your house so energy efficient and so ridiculous that you turn on the air conditioner, it cools the house, it stays cool. But older homes and stuff like that, it's not as good. So I was actually talking to my brother about this whole topic. I was like, hey, you ever think about getting solar? And he's like, I've thought of it, but my electricity bill is like $14 a month. Like it's like when you don't use a ton of air conditioning, what else is there? Like your lights are all LED, your computers don't run that much. It's gas because you're cooking. Like air conditioning is the entire or electric car. My brother has an electric car too, and he's like, when you actually break it down, even my house here, it's like I don't use that much at all. It's all like gas and heating and different stuff. I don't have air conditioning. But I still love the idea, and I still think it'd be awesome for that freedom of when rolling blackouts or brownouts happen, you're self-sufficient.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, at some point, then you would think that the people would be able to like generate their power in a way, or prepare enough that then PG&E could be digging trenches. You know, the 150 miles that they need to like get all their wires out of the woods. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
So they could still have a plant, but they would have like the ability to like not like, hey, if we cut this, these 50,000 people aren't going to have power for like 6 months until we dig this trench.
Exactly.
Or whatever. But like, I guess they could do it in conjunction. But
it's so interesting because it's all old technology, but we all rely on it. Yeah. You always hear the stories about Africa having like the best 3G coverage back in the day, or LTE cell phone coverage, because they didn't have any other infrastructure. Boom, they pop up the towers, and then all of a sudden they have the best cell phone coverage because they didn't have the antiquated stuff they had to work with. So it's like almost the same thing. If there's an up and coming area, it's like boom, we just have these mini battery packs for the neighborhood, where everyone feeds in and everyone takes out, and it'd be so cool.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about. Wasn't like Tesla? Wasn't he working on like wireless electricity too?
Yeah, that was the original thing.
Like that. Yeah.
Back in the 1800s or early 1900s, it was like DC power. It's so much safer than AC power and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Wireless.
Maybe we don't even need wires anymore. Where we're going, we don't need wires.
Exactly. Hey, the whole thing is plants do it. They do photosynthesis. So the more we can get, everything we're doing is just to like get stuff from the sun. The sun is doing it all already, so as many middlemen as we can get rid of.
That's a great point, man. I actually never thought of that. Like at the end of the day, like there's plenty of things getting power from the sun, and it's
everything
right.
Everything you can think of, it all goes back to a plant or an animal that like the animal ate the plant it's metals and stuff are just from the sun exploding or whatever, and everything coming together. But it's crazy.
I'll tell you what, man. I was just saying to somebody the other day at work, like, I was standing outside and the sun was kind of beating on me. I was like, man, it's hell hot. And I was thinking about it, like, if you really think about how freaking hot the sun is, like how far away it can be, and it's like, oh, it's daylight now, and then it's like,
dude,
like the earth tilts like this tiny bit, and we have
that's winter
summer, and a tiny bit the other way, and it's fucking snowing.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Space is the most mind-bending thing, and the 1 in a trillion possibility that we're even having this conversation. It's depressing, but it's also exciting. It's ridiculous, because it's like when even on the moon is like because it has no atmosphere to like kind of buffer it. So it's like the sun hits the moon, it's 1,000 degrees Celsius, and then it goes into the darkness and it's negative 1,000 degrees. Maybe those aren't the actual numbers, but it's super hot and super cold. So Mars is like so far away that it's like it's probably never going to be as good, but you terraform it and do all this. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Put some humans over there for 200,000 years.
Yeah,
we'll get that thing.
Elon can put those robots over there. You know, he can do
we just go over there and do locomotives and do as much pollution as we can. Greenhouse gas that bitch right up, and
exactly.
Next thing you know, it'll be a paradise.
Bring it all back. The coal factories, the child labor. We got it.
Just do it. So, and then meanwhile, it'll just be getting better over here. So, but kind of full circling here back again. So you were talking about the power in your van.
Yeah.
And I definitely I want to pick your brain a little bit about the van, because I have been like, oh man, I've been like so on the fence on buying one, and like I'll do this like thing where I like do research for like 3 hours, and like I go from like getting a rooftop tent for my truck to like buying a $50,000 van in those 3 hours. Yeah. And then I like subscribe to 19 new like YouTube channels with, you know, some other couple that's building another van.
Yes.
And I've been like, are you happy with the size? Because you have the smallest one. Like
I do. I think it is the smallest length. But man, I'm happy. I'm so happy. Like it's you and your lady, and then a dog too.
Yeah.
So that it makes it a little bit hard. You're a bigger guy too, but for me and Sarah, the van, it's just it's so perfect. It's so amazing.
Is your head going side to side?
Yes, it is. It's going side to side, and I'll like when I'm sleeping alone, I can tilt a little bit because it's 6 foot, you know, side to side, but it's like I still don't feel like I can really go fully out. So I'll
how tall are you?
I'm like 5'10". So it's like I curl a little bit or like go side to side. But man, like it's great for the whole 50 state shred and like living out of it a lot and using it a lot. But just the weekend trips, it's so amazing. Just
that's really where I'm at.
Sarah and I load up. We've got the bed, so if we want to stop, we try to load it up so we can actually like walk around inside of it. That kind of changes when we do like a cross country trip, if we're moving her here or moving her there. But but it's great. You just pull over at a rest stop. You do this. You stay at a hotel. Who cares? And then, the next night you go camp and you go do this. And the bikes are there. All your gear is there. Your helmet, your gloves. It's all in its spot. It's just for a adventurous, whether you're hiking, camping, or just going somewhere where we can pull out the little stove and the chairs and make dinner on the side of the road because we found a cool spot to park. There's so many memories from that dang van. Being able to change after a ride. You close the van, you get naked, you wipe yourself down, like just a million little benefits that are awesome. If you
had to use that as your daily driver, would it matter to you?
No, because I do now. I sold my blue car.
Oh, so you did?
Yeah, the blue bullet is gone. I use shift.com and it was pretty good. But I have Sarah's car here because she's off in Boston right now without a car, so I still have that. But the van, it fits in good spaces. It's not too long. I feel very comfortable. It drives like a car. It's not like this like, oh god, I gotta drive the van. I gotta look. It's super comfortable. It's the best of all the worlds because the Sampler's van, I think it might be the medium. Because that long one is ridiculously long. But like even the medium, it's still long. You're still hanging out if you get in a weird spot or I really am happy with that size.
Right on. Yeah, I was really curious about that. And then you were saying about, I don't remember if it was before we were online or not, like that you were in Florida. Because we were joking around about, I think it was before we were online. And you were saying we were talking about how humid it is.
Yes.
And I'm one of those people that like, I can't sleep in the warm. Like I cannot. So like you don't have an AC unit in there, do you?
Correct. So what you do is you turn on the AC in the van. Like you just turn on the car and you run the AC and you just like let it rip. And there were definitely a couple nights where it was pretty tough for sure. But you can always spend $2,000 more bucks and get a heater, get a cooler, get a thing, get a this, get a that. The one thing that I talked about in one of my videos, Eric from BCPOV, he has 2 fans drilled into the roof of his van. I only have one.
One to suck and one to blow.
Exactly.
Like
so it's like almost useless to just have one because you have to crack the door. You kind of have to let the elements in, and then you're like, oh god, is a bug gonna fly in here because I've got it cracked or whatever? But it works pretty good. But the number one mistake, I would definitely do 2, because then you can actually get that real airflow. Because if it's decent enough cold outside, it should be okay. But there's some places where it's just like, you just got to get a hotel. It's ridiculous.
It's like, I'm over it. This is not happening.
Oh.
So another thing that I always am questioning is the bathroom situation. Do you have like a bucket or because you don't have an actual bathroom built into your
No, so I got a little
composting toilet or
no, nothing for poops, and I've been pretty good. I can't think of a time where there was like full on emergency, and in the past I've always been like a full on emergency kind of guy, and like most of my freaking from puberty, like 15 years after, I like at least once a week there'd be some situation where I like almost would not make it. But in recent history, I've been really, really good. So it doesn't worry me as much. There's always rest stops. You kind of get it into a routine where it's like, okay, I'm at the Walmart in the morning. You go, you hop in, and then you get the little urinal type thing, a big thermoflask or something to go pee, and it works out. It can be tough sometimes. We always get in a couple little weird situations, but it's not a big a deal. Like the shower and the toilet are what really hold people back, I think. And then that goes from a $50,000 van to a $100,000 van because it's bigger, and then it has this, and then it's so the fancy. Like, unless you're building it yourself, maybe it'll be cheaper. But that's where everything starts to just explode with the expensiveness. Yeah,
I don't know what I'm more excited about. I don't know if I'm more excited about driving the van and using it as I am actually building it out.
Oh, like, it's to me so like, cool.
Yeah, like I want to do it myself, and I know that like I'm a person that like thrives on something new. You know, like just it seems like you're pretty similar. Like when you start something new, you're all in.
You're hyped. We always want something that like you make progress on, you get feedback, and you do it, and then you get into those projects and you screw it up, and you're like, ugh, this was totally screwy. But when you actually make progress and it's great, it's the best.
And it's just, I don't know, it's like a really motivating thing to like you get up in the morning and whatever else, if you have to do something else other than that, like that's what you're excited about.
Yes,
you know? And I feel like that
we all need a mission. We all need that something that's like keeps us going and keeps us moving forward, and it's awesome.
Because I even said to the lady, I was like, honestly, I think I could build this van, and even if we had it for like a couple of months, we would know right away like how we're using it. And even if at that point I sold it, I guarantee you I would make whatever I paid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because it's just so hot right now for sure.
Yeah, and the markup to have somebody else do it is a lot.
It is.
So like I would break even for sure.
Yeah.
As long as I didn't do like the worst job ever, which I have a fair amount of confidence in myself, like that way that I have enough skill set to not make it look like it just rolled out of the junkyard or something. You know what I mean? Like, so.
I fantasize sometimes about like gutting the van and starting over from scratch. Because, I could just start with another one and build. Because there are things that are like, this could be better. I don't use this as much. I could do this. But I think it would be a huge time suck. It's so much more. Yeah. There's so much more that goes into it. And I love that. But, like, oh, man, it's like put your winter on hold. And, hey, I could make videos during the winter of me doing that. And that would be great content. I get paid to do it versus, like, someone coming home from work and being like, oh, God, I got 15 more things to cut, and I gotta drill this, and I have to redo that because the glue didn't set the right way.
Right. What would you change about your van?
So the garage thing is kind of perfect. I think now that these new solar power systems and stuff are so all in one, so compact, it's like there's a whole section in the back that could just be translated to one thing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The bed being able to like move up and down. There's like the sink area is kind of funky. It's very little stuff. Like when I have to actually articulate what it is, it's like, everything's kind of fine how it is now.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there. I just realized we're both wearing blue shirts for this.
I know. I noticed that right away. Yeah.
It looks like we coordinated our shirts today, but we did not.
Yeah.
That's too funny. Yeah, there's so much about it where I'm like so close to pulling the trigger, but on the other hand, I haven't had a car payment in a while.
Yes.
So it's like, oh man,
that's so huge.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I feel like I almost went and looked at them today.
Yeah.
And I know if I like get myself to the delership, it's probably over.
It's coming. It's like, all right, I'm driving it home.
Like I tried, like that's kind of why I told myself not to go.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, I just want to see how wide it is. Because like,
are you looking at RAM? Like, are you looking at what kind of ones are you looking at?
I'm pretty set on the Ford Transit.
Yeah, I think that's a good
drive.
Yes, it's a good looking platform too, and it's like it's definitely pretty primo. And
it's basically the same engine that's in my pickup truck. I have the F-150 with the twin turbo.
V6,
so like I know.
Are they actually in stock? Do they have them on the lot right now?
I don't know. I mean, I actually haven't gone that far.
Yeah.
Fortunately. So my assumption would be, there is a shortage with cars, huh?
Yeah, you just never know. Because, nowadays you go on Auto Trader or Cars.com or whatever, and it's like, that's like why I went to Oregon to get mine, because it's the only one there's like 2 in the country that had that gray color. And it's like, the white's fine, but I really like that gray. And it's like,
it does look sharp.
I dig it.
Do you ever think you'll put any kind of like branding on it?
I could do the personalized plates, because I finally switched it from like a commercial, like how you buy a truck or a van, it's just automatically commercial vehicle. And it's like such a weird thing. I don't know. Yeah. And you can't do personalized plates on a commercial vehicle. So I finally just like took the time to go to the DMV and say, hey, this is a recreational vehicle. And supposedly the registration's like $100 less per year because of that. Because cool. Versus a commercial. And it was funny too, because I was like sitting in the line at the DMV and I was like, kind of just waiting, because they have to actually have someone come out with a clipboard and say, and she was like, this has to be converted to a recreational vehicle for you to do this. And I opened the door and I'm like, you tell me, is it converted to a recreational vehicle? Because on the outside, she just thought it was just a van, like anything. And she was like, oh, and her happiness level, like for a DMV employee, was like at 11, and it lasted about 10 seconds. I was trying to make conversation with her and all this stuff, and she was like, oh wow, that's so cool, and then back down to just soulless, hating life, just yikes.
That's so beautiful. Oh my god, that's pretty damn funny. So don't be surprised if all of a sudden I start hitting you up on
I'm open. Shoot me a text if you have ideas. I think the solar panels on the top and getting one of those all-in-one power banks nowadays is like a huge thing. And then somebody was even talking on my Patreon that he doesn't even have the solar panels on the top, because you can charge most of these up with a cigarette lighter while you're driving. So you just have to remember to or you could even route a cigarette lighter to the back and just plug it in. You just kind of have to remember to unplug it when you're parked or whatever.
Kind of like RV upfit kit or something like that. That's really not too much extra on the Transit, where it has
little plugs and stuff,
like dual alternators. And
that's badass.
Like right in the truck. So some of that stuff I'm not like.
I'm selling the van. I'm starting over.
Yeah, right.
You convinced me.
Some of that stuff I feel like that's where I'll probably make my mistake. Is like I'll like either overbuy. Like, because man, it's so easy to get on that website and turn a vehicle that starts at like 40 grand to like
always
55.
Like the new Corvette. I mean? I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look at the new Corvette. It's starting at 50 grand. It's like, no, the one I want's $110,000 apparently.
Yeah, exactly like that. So I don't know. And then there's this other part of me that's like, oh, this electric stuff, man. What if you're doing this wrong?
Yeah.
What if you buy this vehicle and now you're in it for like 5-7 years or something? And I don't know. I think,
the electric vehicle, you mean? Like that wave. I think it's still, there's enough resistance where you'll be good. But if in 10 years you might not be able to get it off your hands because it's like, what is this old thing? Is this a classic? Is this a 65 Mustang? I don't want this. My Ford Transit drives itself and it gets like it runs on happy juice.
Yeah, I think I just need to jump in and it's
yeah,
just
man.
one of those
The
things
research
where,
is endless because that's what Alexander. That's why I bought a Ford Trans or the Ram, because Alexander single track sampler. He had researched and he had like spent years researching basically, and he said, "I'm gonna get this, this, and this." I'm like, "Thank you for doing the research. I'm gonna get that too."
Yeah, so it's a good possibility that happens soon.
Do it.
So yeah. I just am really excited. I think, like I said, I'm really excited about the idea of the build, and then from there, I'm pretty excited about, obviously the adventure side of it, but not like, obviously I'm not, quitting my job anytime soon. Maybe if I got a van, I could. Maybe I'd have enough.
Sell the house. Just park it somewhere. Park it up at Everstoke. You guys can live up there. Tend to the land.
So, but like the weekend kind of adventure kind of stuff, to be able to like,
it's so primo.
Hey, we want to go to Mendocino for the weekend. We don't have to worry about finding a $350 a night hotel. We can just go and
national parks and all these different things where it's like, ooh, this works good, and the adventure of like, hey, I've always wanted to see what this looks like. Go get it.
Yeah, the lady's not 100% in though, but I feel like she's not adventurous on spending money. So I feel like once I did it, then she would like be along for the ride. But she doesn't want to be in for like making the go spend the money.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because you buy the van, and it's a payment, it's a down payment, and then you're like, oh, it's $3,000 for the power station. Oh, it's $4,000 for like the aluminum frame, or you're like, whoa, I thought this, and this was going to be this, and then it's like, ugh.
Yeah, and I know like really quickly, I don't have a good way of pumping the brakes with that stuff. So like I'll be like, oh yeah, just put $15,000 on the credit card. It'll work out. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. Minimum payment through 2057.
Right? It doesn't matter. So you got married recently.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. She's a great gal.
So how did you guys meet exactly?
We met on the 50 State Shred on the Georgia episode. So Brian Chambers was a guy that I had like chatted with on Patreon back and forth. He had invited me to different things, and he had actually gone to Spain on, from my videos. He went on one of the Basque MTB tours and loved it. And he actually met another guy named Dan out on that trip. And Dan I'd hung out with on Chasing Epic trips and done different rides with him. We did the West Virginia ride together, and so he was a buddy. And then Chambers was kind of like a buddy through proxy. And Brian Chambers worked at Chick-fil-A. At the time, Sarah was working at Chick-fil-A, and a couple people at Chick-fil-A rode mountain bikes. So she started riding mountain bikes with Brian Chambers and Dan, and those three went to Whistler. She broke her collarbone or clavicle on a teeter-totter a couple years ago. Like they had done a couple cool different trips. They actually had a trip booked to Spain that got canceled because of the pandemic, or actually Revelstoke. I think it was Revelstoke actually. So they're a good little group of traveler buddies and like meeting up and doing stuff. And Brian was kind of the first person to email me about a Georgia year, for a couple years versus all the people that I'm going to all 50 states. Like I had 1 million people email me, but he was at the top of the list. Thank heaven and earth that he was at the top of the list. So, and Sarah was like, maybe I'll come, maybe not. She never watched any of my videos. She didn't know who I was. They just know that those guys would talk about my videos and oh yeah, that was so cool. So she ended up coming, and we hit it off for sure. And it was just really neat that we had a connection right from the start. And it's always like, is she actually interested? And when she we texted a little bit, and she was writing these big long texts. I was like, it's in, she's on. Let's see let's see what happens here. Because, man, I know it's been a while for you, but you went through the whole relationship, online dating. It's the battle of who can care less, isn't it? Right. It's who can do the least, who can not even show that they're interested at all. 1 million friggin' OkCupid dates and just garbage dates that I've been on that never click with anybody or anything. And then finally somebody that's wow, she's amazing.
My lady and I met through online dating as well, and We did, and
yeah. Well, it's kind of online.
But at the time that we like ended up meeting each other, like both of us were kind of completely over online dating.
Yeah.
You know, and it was kind of like no effort into the conversation. Like, hey, you want to put a face in the name? Sure, come on over. You know, like,
exactly. The sooner you could actually just meet up instead of the pen pal thing, it's so much better. And then even that fizzles out. We're
always joking about the bad dates because there is a lot of good bad date stories from that. And it's interesting, like through that those platforms, like how much connection that you think you can have with somebody talking to them, and then in person, like zero.
Totally.
It's unbelievable.
it is. It's like, yeah, you could talk a good game, you could use your thumbs to do a good game, and then in person, like, that's always like the thing when I get emails from people, you know, hey, Brian, come ride this. And like, you know, if you're spelling or you're not doing a good job of selling, it's like, I'm not building that picture in my mind, but in real life, that guy's probably really cool and there's a really great trail. And then you get sucked in by a story and it's a great email. And then you go there and you're like, oh, okay, this isn't much.
Yeah. I can only imagine. I've definitely, I definitely can relate with you there.
Yeah.
Before I get sidetracked, because that's a good shiny ball. I almost bit. But I was gonna ask you, when you're looking for somebody, you have like this idea of who they are.
Yeah.
Did Sarah end up being that person, or how different is she from that person that you thought was the lady that you would marry?
Yeah, what a good question. There's so many things that like when I think of it now, it's ridiculous how many things of like my weaknesses are her strengths, and just how well we fit together, and just like I had talked about it on the channel plenty. Like, I don't care if my partner mountain bikes or not. It does not matter to me. It's like, it's not my identity. Like, it is my identity, but it just doesn't matter. But she does. She's a great rider. It's really enjoyable to get to go on rides together and share those rides together. Yeah. Sometimes film them, sometimes put them out. But so that was kind of a huge bonus. But there's just so many things about her. How smart she is. How great at conversation. She's great emotional intelligence, and just all these things of like, I get annoyed so easily with everyone, including all the people I've ever dated and stuff, and like she doesn't annoy me at all. It's just like, oh, I'm living in heaven.
That's awesome, man. I am very, very happy for you both, and I have been watching the comment section through the stream so far, and there's just
a lot of congrats.
Every other person, congrats to you and her both. So you said she's back east right now?
Yeah, so she's going to Harvard. She's getting a master's degree in nonprofit management. And wow. It's like a 1-year program, so it's a little less expensive than all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Get in and get out.
Yeah. But still, I mean, that's a prestigious school to go to.
Oh, it's super exciting. So she stayed close to home for her undergrad, and one of her dreams in life was to go to like a big school, and she got into Stanford, she got into Harvard. I think those are the only two she applied to, maybe Berkeley as well. And it was there was pros and cons between Stanford and Harvard, and she went for Harvard, and it was it's pretty cool. We moved her in.
I just got married. I should go to the other side of the country.
Exactly. We need to keep this. I'm not even wearing my ring. I don't even know if I can see like the. I've got a little bit of the suntan right now. I took it off. When I take a shower, I take it off. But it's pretty neat. She's got things going. She's got her friends already going, even though in-person classes haven't started. Who knows if they'll actually start in-person classes? But it's all kinds of random fun anecdotes. But one of the interesting ones is that they require everyone to be vaccinated, kind of, sort of. But they also require everyone to take a COVID test once a week or so, and you get the results back, and I think that's the best way to do it. I think that's how all of us should have been doing it from the start. If we just test like crazy, we don't have to do anything else. But all the international students are like arriving now and getting the vaccine like that, and like they aren't able to get the vaccine back at their home country. Like all of them are like, it doesn't really exist. Yeah, we've heard of some people getting the vaccine, or you wait in a line for 2 days for a vaccine, but you show up in America, you got your student visa and hit the CVS and you get it.
Yeah, I work for an international company, and a lot of the guys, I was on a call the other day with somebody from Brazil, and he was saying like it's not everybody, like they don't have enough of them down
Yeah.
there to give to people.
What a interesting globally connected world we are in so many ways, but then like, oh, we've got this, it's gold in the streets here, and then on the other side it's like, oh yeah, we can't get it.
So what was the ceremony like? You guys did something small? Did you have something big? Did you just go to the courthouse?
Very small. Yeah, that's all I wanted was good pictures. I honestly, like, that's the only point of having the ceremony was have a couple good pictures when mom and dad were young and looked good. So it was awesome. So we found like an elopement, like Blue Sky Elopements, I think it was called, and you go online. It was like I think it was a Bay Area based company, because they do them in San Francisco and Napa and and they had one in the Redwoods, and it's like, okay, let's do this. And it's so funny too, because like after the fact you're like, we could have just done it. You don't need a permit when you have like 5 people showing up, and but we'd still have to find the photographer. But I have buddies that are photographers, and then we would have had to get
enough people to take pictures.
The ordained person. Like, I'm ordained. I did my brother's wedding and all that stuff, but the photos were the part. But it worked out good. Still stressful, which is the funniest thing, right? Like, it was like only my parents and her mom and her sister. Like, that was it. There was 4 guests, and it's still like, oh, we got to get there at this time, and then, we got to go pick up this, and it's like, God, if they're weddings are just no fun for anyone. But it was good. I got the photos out. It was great. I love it. But like, I can't imagine doing the 50-person, the 100-person weddings and just being forced into it. The payment of that crazy thing
is the one that never makes any sense.
Exactly. And all your friends are just sitting with random people, and they have to interact with your family, and then you have to hear the weirdo from that side of the family give a speech, and then your weirdo from your side of the family, and you're like, oh God, he's had too much to drink. Oh no. Like, just all of those dynamics. Like, it's much better, even in the COVID era, just to hang out and have fun and have a Super Bowl party and have just a 4th of July party, and just that's where the memories are made, versus everybody getting in a tux, driving, and being at this horrible thing. I hate it.
Did you talk about you guys being engaged at all on the channel before you told everybody that you were married?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm trying to think of like if I snuck it in.
When I was up at the property, he's like, "Oh yeah, Brian's getting married," and I was like, "Oh shit, I didn't know." But I don't always follow everybody's channel, like, there might
have been some random thing where, like, I think people really noticed that Sarah had a ring on a few times. Like, you stop and go frame by frame, like, wait a second, she's got a ring. Like, that was like immediately. There was a couple people, YouTube sleuths that
how do they catch that stuff, right?
Yeah, it's so funny. You have to like a third sense or sense.
You're like, wait a minute, I thought my video was entertaining. Why are you like zoning out watching your finger?
Exactly. No, I saw it. That big Costco diamond, it glitters so nice in the sun.
So you said you guys did a honeymoon. Where'd you guys go?
Yeah, we went to Tahoe. So we went to a comedy show in Reno, and that was like one of the height of smokiness from maybe the Tamarack Fire or something else like that. We saw Whitney Cummings, and she was really good, really funny at the old Grand Sierra Resort or whatever. Oh my God, Reno's such a weird place. The casinos and the
revitalized or something.
I think it is. We walked by some of the downtown stuff, and it's like, whoa, there's people in the river, and it's super healthy. Like, there's tons of athletes. There's tons of like, because it's reasonable, right? It's not the Bay Area. It's like probably $300,000 or $200,000 for a brand new house kind of thing. So it's like, whoa, and less taxes and all that. But then the weirdos and the downtown and the drugs and the casinos are just weird. But that's all casinos. So it's bizarro for sure. Then we went to Lake Tahoe and we did some stand-up paddleboarding, which was really cool. The clear water and all that stuff, and it was super smoky, but it was still good.
We just bought a couple of those inflatables, and those things are pretty fun, man. I have kayaks that we've used for a long, because we're like right by the river,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to use a kayak anymore. To be honest, like.
It's pretty cool. We went up to the Napa River, and she had one, and then I rented one, and we went up, and it's like, it's pretty neat. You start the downtown, you go up the river, and then come back, and it's scary at first, because you're like, oh my God, I can really just tip this thing over and fall in. Yeah. But then I bought one on Amazon.
Not that good.
Your core.
Yeah, I do all kinds of exercises that I'm like standing on one foot, or like, I don't know what that damn thing's called. It's like half a ball. with
Yeah.
a plank. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yes.
Like,
Kate Courtney
all kinds-
has them in her videos where she's like
Yeah.
throwing stuff back and forth.
No, where you're like standing on it. It's like a
Yes,
it
yes.
looks like an old like what was that, like a pogo ball thing?
Yeah, or like a
back in the
pop
day?
it thing. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So like I do all kinds of exercises like that, dude, but I stand on that freaking board, man, and it's like, holy crap.
yep.
It's like
New muscles.
definitely interesting. So
Yeah.
but I think the thing that's cool about it is like I can sit down and paddle it like a kayak, or like my kayak sometimes like my lower back would really start to hurt, you know?
Yeah, it's an
And with
awkward
that,
position.
it's like my back starts to bother me. I can like just lay down and chill for a minute, you know? And it's like, I don't know.
They're
think-
cool.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty fun. It's more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I really like just bought it to like make the lady happy because she likes them. And I was like, well, I'll do it. And then I was like, okay, this is fun.
Yeah. No, I think that's a lot. It's like a lot of stuff like that. It's like kind of a weird yoga kind of chick kind of thing. And it's like, no, this is cool.
Yeah, totally. So, what else is new, man?
Man, I got the land going. That's taking up a lot of the time. Sarah moving, getting married, honeymoon. Not much else. Not much else happening.
So, do you think that, like, when's the snow, like, or going to start hitting your property? Because there's going to be a point where you guys aren't going to be able to build.
It's possible. It's very possible. It's only at 4,000 feet or 4,500 feet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's kind of in its own.
Like I'm way higher than
Exactly.
that when I was up there.
Exactly, and it's like we were there.
Like Placerville,
Yeah,
yeah.
we were there in early April or late April, and there wasn't a scent of snow or anything when we first saw the land. When we first I flew in from Arkansas just to check it out and look, and it's like. It's very possible. I was at the store and somebody was like, when I first moved up here 10 years ago, we had 4 feet of snow. And since then, we haven't had any snow, like stick or any. So I think it's going to be cold as a mofo. I think the days are going to be short and like it'll be like, oh, God, getting up in the morning will be brutal because it already in the morning right now, it's like 45 degrees. And it's like, how can it go from 95 to 45 and then your hands just trying to get up? So I try to like hike up the hill just to get my blood flowing and all that stuff. So I think it'll be brutally cold in the winter, but doable if you can get used to it. And we might still just be chugging along. It's really the rain will probably be a part of it, of like how weird, because our place is so dusty and nasty. We don't know what's going to happen when stuff starts flowing, but we could just keep building through the winter. And we saw BCPOV working in the snow and doing all that stuff. It's like, as California guys, it's like, but you got, if where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting watching him build in the conditions that he built in compared to like, I mean, I built all winter down here and it was definitely not the same conditions. You know? Like,
totally.
It is definitely way, way different. So, and I've been surprised that, like, big kudos to Aaron and everybody that's been up there, you and Joe from Colorado Kid. And
Kyle,
think,
Unprofessional Kyle's been up.
Kyle, like, dude, it is crazy hot to be building right now. Like, I can't even imagine.
It's funny because, like, yesterday in the evening, I was like, I gotta stop. Like, I'm like getting all weird and like I drank my whole thing of water and it's like, oh, I should have brought 2. And like I mentioned in one of the videos, there was like a day where I never peed the entire day and I didn't even realize it. It's like, what the, how is that possible? I'm like always drinking water, always like, it's pretty brutal. But Aaron's like, I feel bad every time I sit down, every time I'm like, I gotta take a break. But he's like, he's in it. Like, he's been up there, he's been working, like he's in fighting shape basically. I'm still like, oh, I'm here, I'm helping out, but I'm really editing videos and I'm really so I'm a wuss still. And it's like, he is a machine. He makes me feel bad every time I'm like, I gotta sit down, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's definitely very, very driven right now, that's for sure. So I was like, wasn't sure. I was hoping you were going to tell me it was going to snow up there. That way I could get him back down here working on the stuff that we were working on in the winter. But sounds like I might not.
Oh, it's possible. He'll need something to do. He's got to stay in fighting shape.
Yeah. So
he tells me those stories. He said you guys are killing, like, just had such a good time, and he's like always says like Robert is an animal. Robert, like, and I'm like, how could anyone be harder working than Aaron? Like, it's like you guys must have just been the perfect friggin' axe mates.
We argued a lot because we have different views on how trails should be.
Yeah.
And like, I think we both saw the same vision, but like, we could not agree on it while we were in the.
That's funny.
And
it's he's a good guy. Like, he's good with like.
Yeah.
I always, we have disagreements, kind of, sort of. It's not arguments, but it's like, what about I don't really know that. He is a great guy to like have that kind of conversation with. Versus like, if it was two of me, it'd be like, who can scream louder, kind of thing. So he's
we weren't like
awesome.
Actually arguing, it's like busting each other's chops. But I think the thing for me is that Aaron's a really good climber. And like when we would be building something, especially this climbing trail that we built, I'd be like, dude, I want this to be chill. Like, I want this to not be like that bad. And he'd be like, oh, it's nothing worse than what it was to get up here. And I'm like, so the one section that he cut in that day is the hardest part of the climb. And it's like exactly everything I didn't want it to be.
We all have our strengths and weaknesses. It's like, nope, no climbing trails. Like, you do the downhills. Like, it's like, you got to come way out and come way back, come way out.
When he was doing that switchback at your property, and he's like, oh, it's a little tough getting over this one. I'm like, oh, it's fucked up. It's really fucked up.
If he says that, then it's like, what?
I was like, I'm reading between the lines here.
Yeah. I've taken the Rokon. We both took the Rokon like up those and like tried to like get the motorcycle around, and like it's like it's so scary. And if it's like, it shouldn't be that scary on the motorcycle.
So then that's probably a good like delineator to say that, hey, we need to make this wider or less deep, or
definitely, it's a good little thing, and just bringing the bike up and seeing how it feels. But it's to have that little tool out there and like scoot around on it.
It's something else to. I mean, I think like you. I mean, I was similar that I've done like trail work in the past, but to actually like go just build a trail.
Yes, do it from scratch.
It's definitely different when you're actually doing that, and you're not like following somebody's lead. You're like, oh, well, this would be cool, and you find out like it doesn't ride the way that you thought it would.
Totally.
And then after you've done that a few times, then you actually start to get like
the mental map.
Yeah, like in my mind, like when we first started doing that trail that we were doing last year, we were putting all this like back and forth motion in.
Yeah.
And then once we got to like riding it, it was like, oh no, it needs to be way straighter than that.
Yeah.
And like if you're making curves, what seems like a fast curve on your bike is actually a pretty big curve.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For you to like
it can be herky jerky and you're fighting it versus it's got to be like so exaggerated and all. That's all stuff that Aaron, at least he's got so many hours at the bike park and building stuff that I'm going to learn from him of like, okay, what about this? What about that?
Yeah. There's some sections that he set up there on your property though that's like super steep. Like there's like two big hills that he was like, I don't even think we can go down them.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's like these gulches. Everything's kind of almost like a finger kind of, but it's neat because, oh man, at top of the ridge, we have like 5 ridges basically that you could shoot a trail down, and it's like, whoa, this is so cool. But there's certain places where you're going to get totally lost or there's no way back out unless we build a climbing trail that goes back up. So it's kind of weird. It's like we have 90 acres, but it's like there's kind of a big spot in the middle that's kind of a no man's land. But we'll eventually get to it and carve a trail back out. It'll just take a feat of engineering, and it'll be awesome.
It's better to go hit the like low hanging fruit first.
Exactly. Aaron and I talk about it all the time. The trails that he's built, like if you look at the whole map, if the map is like this big, it's like we've done this like little thing down here. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, the trail that we were working on last winter was like a little over a mile. Yeah. And there'd be a day where there'd be maybe 6 of us out there just working for like 8 hours, and then you go home and you lay your like GPX file on the map.
Yeah.
And you moved like this much, and you're like
crazy.
But when you're out there walking, you're like, oh man, we did so much today. Look at all this. And then
definitely
go look at the map, and it's like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, that's a blessing and a curse, I think, because that's a question I got from a lot of people is like, but there's only 91 acres, so how can you even it's like, it's okay. It doesn't, I've seen it in Bentonville. It doesn't have to be 5 miles long. It doesn't have to be 50 miles long to be an amazing, there's no correlation between the length of the trail and the fun. Like there is sometimes with the steepness and stuff, but even that, Bentonville proved that like you can basically have a flat plain. Florida as well. You could have a flat thing, and if you build wood features and move around and have the dirt, you can have so much fun. So really the focus is always going to be on fun, and even if it's only a quarter mile of a trail, it can be ridiculously fun.
Yeah, I mean, you take Rockville, for example. I mean, I think that whole park is a square mile, right? And and realistically, though, like lots of those fun sections are, like you said, not even
a blink of an eye.
Yeah, they're like 100 yards or 50 yards, or you know what I mean? It's like, if you stack those all up, a bunch of them next to each other, then you're going to have a good time. Mm-hmm. You know? Like,
exactly.
So what is like the like, do you have a plan for when you think you're going to like be able to turn some kind of profit, or like...
That's the toughest thing. So really we want to get some kind of prototype running, like a big deck, right? Because if we get a big deck and we get a parking spot, it's like, hey, okay, now we can invite some people out and say, hey, okay, camp out here, see how it is. And then we're like, okay, I'm sure I'll open it up to my Patreon people first to be like, okay, it's
like van people could be like, hey, there's like 5 van spots or something.
Exactly,
like
a nice van spot. There's all those configurations of like, okay, how many spots and how many people and how much garbage and how much turnover. There's just, it's a lot to think about. And like, there's not going to be any chance of having a campfire. But the more we walk the property and the more we see these little spots where we could build a giant deck and a parking spot, it's so cool. And, you know, when you think about camping,
you're thinking that somebody would like just hang out on it, or like
they
put
their tent on it, or we build like nice glamping tents, like heavy duty canvas, bigger ones, put a bed in there and like have some amenities, have some solar, have some power, but it's still glamping, so it's still like rustic and kind of totally the trend right now. But it makes total sense because it's like, it's fun and it's cool and it's different. But when I think about camping right now, if you go to Yosemite, if you go to any of these campgrounds, it's like usually $45 a night. Is that kind of the going rate for a campground? And like,
something like that,
and you're on top of each other. You're just always on top of each other. But the stuff that we're going to build, I think we could build 10 campsites that are like, you have your privacy, you've got all the animals out there with you, you've got the stars, where it's like, I think we could charge a better premium, and you're with your people. If you want to hang out at the shred quarters and, you know, have a beer and hang out and have the community, you're there. Or if you want to go off and be alone and be in your campsite. So I think when we get this beta tested and up and running, I just think it's going to be so cool. Like, people are going to be like, wow, this is it. And it's going to be different. Yes, you could go pay $5 and park on the side of the road for a campsite, but if we charge a little bit of a premium, we could actually make it profitable, like you're saying, and actually pay the mortgage and actually make it something that makes money. Would be so cool.
So the shred quarters, you're saying, like, you guys have some kind of like plans for structure there?
Oh man, definitely. That would be the coolest thing eventually, because right now it's like, it's Aaron's trailer and just that's the base camp basically, as we call it, the shred quarters. But it would be awesome to get, like, you know, the dream is like a studio, like a bike shop in the bottom that's not a bike shop that sells stuff, or maybe it does, but a mechanic can be in there working on stuff, or stations so anyone can work on their bikes, and then podcasts, video studio on top of that, you know, double-decker thing, you know, that's like the dream. And then like a couple of bedrooms in the back where we could stay when we're there. So eventually I think there will be an actual shred quarters building, but we're still digging in the dirt right now.
Do you think that you would like I mean, obviously I'm just asking you to brainstorm at this point, but do you think you would like actually build something, or you think you would go down the route of like getting some like prefab kind of things, like what Joe did in his backyard, where then you can kind of dodge some of the extra costs, so to speak?
So I think there's pros and cons for sure. Joe's thing was not cheap, and
not at all.
It's like you get it done. But just like my van, I wanted to get it done, so I went to Wayfarer Vans and they built it out in a day, and I was on the road. So it's like, my cousin is a carpenter, and between Aaron and I think we could build quite a lot of things because we have the time. We can make videos about it. It'll be fun. So there's a huge, like, not risk reward, but like how much time you're going to put in versus how much it's going to cost if you just get somebody to come and do it. So it's
like a lot of stuff in California, like they have all kinds of like you can't just, like, in some states you can go out and just build whatever the fuck you want on your property.
There are certain places where there are literally no building codes.
Yeah, like in Georgia, I think it's like that. Like if it's your property, like if I wanted to go out and build a barn out in my backyard, like they're like, hey, if it falls on your head, that's your problem, dude. You know,
totally.
Like, but I think, you know, obviously there's lots of reasons why it's different here, but I just didn't know, like, you have to be like a general contractor and then you have to have this.
Yeah,
like,
so there is. You can you can pull a permit that's like an owner builder, and we have a good base of resources of all the people that emailed me when we first started. Yeah. So there will be people that we can help and lean on for certain things because there's certain stuff that it's like you need electrical inspected where it's like electrical, it's not as crazy. You just do the math. All these things you can, if you just put the time in and research and learn, watch a bunch of YouTube videos, you can do it. But like drywall, and there's certain people that are just such experts at that stuff. You let the experts do it. But totally. It's all possible. The nerdy thing that I can get into a little bit is like the zoning. So we've got 91 acres, but it's zoned at the front R10, which means you could build one structure per 10 acres. And then at the back, it's R20, which is one structure per 20 acres. But the funny thing is, it's like, okay, so at the front, we've got basically 22 acres. So you could build 2 structures, but really that's 3 structures each because the code allows you to build a main house, a secondary house, and a guest house. So it's like within the code, there's so many different weird little things of interpretations of like, do we have to subdivide the parcel to be able to build multiple dwellings on our thing? Or is it, hey, it's R10, so that just means we can build multiple dwellings and build a compound. So there's so much of that stuff that is like still to be waded through, and it's fascinating. It's awesome. And the sooner we get a structure built that's like a house type thing, the better for like if we had to sell it tomorrow. It's like, 91 acres and a house, and it makes it way more liquid of an asset. That's like
so you guys can get out.
If anything happened, God forbid, like boom, and we can do short-term rentals, Airbnb, and work it for sure. But like, there's another way you could zone it as a campground or zone it as a resort, and then it's like it's game over at that point. It's a business now. It's 91 acres. This is a business. Somebody who wants to buy it has to buy a business, and that's a whole different thing. So so many things to think about of like, I really like the idea of keeping it residential because we can build a bunch of houses. Those houses would be awesome, and then do that as short-term rentals. But there's a million ways for sure to do it.
What made you reach out to Aaron?
I've had this idea of like obsessing about like, oh man, buy a property, build stuff on it, make videos. This guy Cletus McFarland, he bought a racetrack, an old dilapidated racetrack, and he's been making all these fun videos. He's kind of a car channel, and I've just had this idea, and I've told people along the way this idea, and like, oh, what if you did this? And no one really bit. It was a lot of like throwing it out and but what about this? Or like no enthusiasm, no imagination. And I sent it to Aaron because we'd gone back and forth. He loves trail building. There's all these things. And I texted him when I was in Arkansas. I was like, hey, check this out. I've got this like idea about building a place on a big thing at acreage and doing short-term rental Airbnb type thing. And he was like, oh my God. Like he was just leaving his company, starting a new thing. And like, he was as enthused about it, if not more, than I was. And like, I've had a million harebrained ideas. I freaking quit my job to do YouTube. Like that is the most harebrained of all schemes. And I get so little enthusiasm from people in my life about any of my ideas that like when someone's actually like gives me feedback, it's like, all right, buddy, I'm with you till the end.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it just really worked out well because I mean, I know, he didn't really mention it to me and the other guys. Like we were all building. You guys must have been talking about that. So
yeah,
I'll
because nothing was
keeping his mouth
shut. And nothing's
like,
a final thing. That's the thing. I've had a million things throughout the history of this channel that were like, oh, this is gonna happen. This is gonna until you actually friggin' have the keys. It's there's no chance of anything. So it's like I've blabbed about all my hopes and dreams and like learned that lesson 1,000 times. So it's like people find out what they need to find out.
When he finally, I think it was actually, I didn't actually know about it until
the video.
Joe like texted me and was like, dude, did you see Brian's Patreon? And I was like, oh, I'm not on his Patreon. He's like, oh, dude, you got to see, like, he swallowed his property. And I was like,
what?
Went to Patreon, signed back up. Like, I got to see this. And I just remember thinking to myself, like we were hanging out and writing and like building some other stuff and he never mentioned it at all. I was really surprised how well he didn't like
he cheated on you.
You know, like but I mean just like with your friends, you were like he did a good job keeping his mouth shut. So, like, that was
I've been down that road so many times and then it's like, hey, whatever happened to that? I wish I would have never told anybody.
Yeah, that's me. I'm so good at telling everybody everything. I'm like, well, now there we go. So shoot, you said something while we were talking about that I wanted to switch gears on, and I can't remember what it was now. But so I see that gravel bike hanging there in the background. Yeah. How are you digging that thing?
That's awesome.
Haka, right?
I got rid of my road bike because it's just great to have the Haka, to go on gravel, go on pavement, because a lot of the rides out here, there's awesome road riding, but it's always there's little bits where you can incorporate the gravel and the single track, and it's awesome. I think I'll probably use it a little bit more this winter for when the trails get closed and stuff. But I like having one bike.
A gravel bike that I just switched to like slick tires for the road, and I have the knobbies. But I've been contemplating buying a new one, and that Haka and obviously the Santa Cruz Stigmata, because I'm a Santa Cruz fanboy.
Yeah.
But I just was curious, like how you felt about that. You've been with Ibis now for a while, huh?
A couple years, I think, because it'll almost be maybe 2, 3. Because I've been on the Ibis bikes before there was any deal. It was just like, oh yeah, here, take a bike kind of thing. And now like they actually pay me. It's a real sponsorship thing, which is so amazing to show off their bikes and ride and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I don't have a specific date for sure, but it's neat. Yeah. It's really cool to be in, and like they get what I'm doing. Like Scott, the founder, like texts me. He's like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. Like just had watched one of my videos and had a comment kind of thing, and it's neat.
Those guys seem to pick up a lot of YouTubers all at once. Was it like a new marketing guy?
Yeah, I never asked them exactly, but they just really, I think they see the value in the space. So it's like nobody else sees the value in the space, so we can own the space.
Yeah, definitely. How do you like you were just joking around about saying stuff at one point and then later kind of like eating your words, like how do you feel that your relationship with them is compared to like your like pseudo character Joey Trek guy that you would make fun of back when you started your channel?
Yeah. No, it's awesome. I think it's great because everyone has those high, like, I'm never going to sell out, I'm never going to do anything. And that is possible if you actually build an awesome Patreon community. And I have an amazing Patreon community, but it's just not enough. You have to be able to piece things together to be able to do this, to be able to have the van, to be able to live here, to be able to do all that. So the Patreon community is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I'm always in awe when I look at my 1,700 patrons, and then you look at any other Patreon on the planet almost. Some of them are ridiculous, but it's like I've carved out a really special thing. But there's always other things, and to be able to ride a bike exclusively and have them pay for me, it's just awesome. And yeah, it's like I don't feel like I have to go overboard with like, hey, here's this and the new suspension and the new this and the new that.
I would assume that the relationship that you thought that came with that when you were making the jokes about being Joey Trek is probably not the same relationship that you're in.
Exactly. And like they've even said like, yeah, we don't have an e-bike. If you're going to ride an e-bike in a video, it's okay. Like you can do whatever you want kind of thing. Like it's all good, but I feel bad. It's like, man, I think the e-bike opens up so many possibilities. So eventually, hopefully one day when they get an e-bike, it's like, I want to save all those videos because it's like, oh, Downeyville, you go climb and you go over here, then you go over the back. And so they're definitely really cool. There's no dictation. There's no like, hey, well, I didn't see this in that video. So they've been really chill. And I feel like when I see people on the trail and they're riding an Ibis, they're like, yeah, man, I saw it in your videos. I love it.
That's awesome, man. Do you lost it. That one was like right there on the tip of my tongue and gone. Right there, dude. See you later, buddy. What do you enjoy about it? Because I think you're on the which mountain bike are you on? The
Ritmo.
The Ritmo,
I love it because it's like I'd rather have the biggest bike possible so I can go to my favorite type of trails, Canada style, Whistler style trails, Quebec style big rocks and tough tech, and just be ready for that. And instead of thinking about, oh, maybe I should have brought the smaller bike, oh, maybe this, just one bike, it's good enough. If I'm not riding trails that aren't taking advantage of the big bike, then I'm not riding the right trails.
Do you think that you would have space for like a short travel bike, or like is it just because like you're traveling that you're like, hey, I can only have like
I think I could. I think there's always room. There's always room for more bikes, but it's like if I'm taking the time to go for a ride, it should be Ritmo style ride. It should be hard. It should be tough. It should be techie. It should be taking advantage, because that's what I love.
Do you are you like, I would assume you're totally in love with the 29er now then, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, when you started your channel, you were on a 27.5.
Yeah, the Bronson. Yeah, because it was the bike of the moment and it seemed pretty good. But I dig the 29. It's been great. I can't remember if I've ridden a 27.5 in the past recent memory to be like, wow, this is different. But now I have enough miles on the 29 that I bet I would actually feel it.
Yeah, I had a 29er with my Chameleon, and then I did 27.5 plus on it for a while. And then now I have a tall boy that is 29er. And although I love it and it is a lot of fun, I am not like sold out of the 27.5 yet. Like, I definitely still prefer my Bronson on the chunkier stuff, like the more technical stuff. So there's just some small things to me, and maybe it's, maybe it's not the right bike. Maybe I don't know. Like I haven't drank the Kool-Aid yet.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, something for everybody.
Yeah, totally. So, anything in the bike industry that you're looking forward to? Like,
man, I'd love a surprise. I'd love to see something coming, because right now it feels like a little bit of a lull, and I think there's been so much like backlog with the manufacturing, and you hear all these stories of like bike shops having to go on eBay to buy stuff to be able to build up a full bike, and it's just crazy because Ibis, like, it's already like they sell out of every bike immediately anyways, and then it's like even harder to get a bike. It's like, man, it's a crazy business to be in where everybody wants what you have, and it's like you can't get it to them. Like, oh,
yeah. That is kind of crazy the way things are going that way right now with the stock of everything. And like I was talking to somebody that owns a bike related business, and they were saying, it doesn't even really make a lot of sense to be like giving product to like influencers for marketing right now, because it's like, definitely I can sell everything that I can make and then some right now. So
I was having the same conversation recently where it's like, there's no way, like if you can't, if you don't have enough to even sell, then how could you even service this or that? So it's just impossible.
It's interesting to see how it plays out. Like, I'm curious to see how things swing whenever that like those products start coming back, and the demand maybe starts to diminish some. And I mean, they're assuming that not everybody that bought a bike during COVID is gonna stay a biker.
There's I'm talking with different people about that whole topic, and so interesting because like if you look like the Google Trends, if you search for mountain biking and like how it went and exploded, and now it's like right back down, maybe a little bit of a bump, where it's like that's a good indicator of like long-term demand. And hopefully we got people exposed, but this was not like a Tony Hawk skateboarding moment where everybody's into it now.
And I mean, it's understandable, right? Because it's like it takes a lot of time, and as people have to go back to work or their work schedules change back to going to the office, it's not as easy, you know. It's not like road biking, for example, like where you can just like walk
Hop
out
in,
your front
hop
door
off.
or running or something, you know.
Yep, totally.
So I mean, it's understandable in that aspect, but I'm really curious, like, I mean, some of these factories have like changed, like built new factories and like hired twice as many people, and it's like, as a company, like running a business, and like
you have to be ready. You have to be nimble.
Yeah. About how that's gonna like.
Well, that's why the Tesla AI robot, man. Like, that is gonna be like, so many things are gonna happen within the next 10 years. Of like, we can bring all the manufacturing back to the United States. Everybody could have manufacturing. Everybody could build stuff. Like, all these things are gonna just be in total upheaval. Where it's like, we can throw 20 more robots at it. They can work 24/7. Oh, the demand is lower. We go use the robot over here, rent it out to this other guy. It's amazing.
I read this thing that they thought, like, when, like, around the time that like Ford was coming up with like production line, and they were thinking of robots doing different jobs and things, that they really thought that the 40-hour work week would go away.
Yes.
Like, we would end up working less and less, and somehow that hasn't happened.
It's crazy.
It's interesting to think about, like, what will happen if we can automate all like the physical jobs.
Yeah.
Like, will we actually get ourselves to a place where like humanity only works 3 days a week?
Yeah.
Or
And then we just still need meaning. We still need meaning. We still need to work on something.
Right.
There's still going to be guys like Aaron getting up at 6 a.m. while Brian's asleep in the van till 8 a.m. Like, just getting up, because that's what fuels you. So whether it's working on art, stand-up comedy, drawing, painting, digging trails, whatever actually fulfills you is going to be your passion. And I think we'll get there. I totally am like I said, I'm a true believer with all the technology stuff and how it's all moving forward. And I just learned about DAOs today, decentralized autonomous organizations, which is like the crypto version of a company. So you just blow up a company and you have this DAO, and that's going to be the next Google and the next Facebook, and these companies that you put in work, you get paid, and you do what you want. So you heard it here first. There was NFTs, there was Bitcoin, DAOs. That's the next one.
So Aaron says he's going to be making trail building robots.
Yep, exactly. An army.
An army of them. Oh my. That's too funny. Yeah, that whole NFT thing is really interesting. Those of you guys that don't know, it's like, I don't know, how do you explain it? It's like basically a picture that's money.
Yeah, so it's like
a currency.
Yeah, you kind of have to say it like it's tough.
I'm trying to
so
like make it like
it's a way to
down,
certify, like, you know, money. Dollar bills are like, they're serialized. They have okay, that's a bad analogy. Yeah. So it's basically a good way to like put, this is the real thing. This is the real Honus Wagner baseball card that was in the the first Topps thing, where people are like, it's just the JPEG. But the Honus Wagner #1 baseball card is just a piece of cardboard.
Right.
So what's the difference? So in the collectible space, the NFT thing is so interesting. It's endlessly fascinating with like collectibles, what we feel are collectible. If you go on Twitter now, there's all kinds of people with different avatars. They have the CryptoPunks avatars, and some people have these ape avatars, and those are like one of a kind. They bought them when it was only $200. Now they're all worth $50,000 or $100,000. So there's this huge like tulip kind of fervor about everything, and I've got totally wrapped up in it over the past couple of days.
I read this article this morning about some like 10-year-old kid that made $400,000 selling NFTs. Like, it's like, what?
And really, it's you find your community, right? Like, if somebody sees what you're selling and you're like, oh wow, I really like this piece of art. This is a neat little thing that somebody made. I like it. And then all of a sudden you get a community behind it that's like, we all like it. We all think the same way. We all want to be a part of this. So it's all going to move it this way. It's just like cell phones. This is the first time you hear about a cell phone. Who would ever want it? Who would ever need it? And then, oh, cell phones run our lives. Oh, NFTs are everything, and everything's tied to this because we all live in virtual reality. And that piece of artwork that I bought 20 years ago when NFTs first started, wow, Brian has that hanging up in his virtual dojo. Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
His virtual dojo.
Yeah.
That's too funny. So I'm going to circle back to like when you started YouTube. You said earlier about, joking around about quitting your job at 5,000 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's possible for somebody in the MTV space to do again now?
Always. I always believe that if it's just like stand-up comedy, it's just like art, it's just like movies, it's entertainment. If you can entertain people, if you can make videos that people want to watch, you have a chance. Yeah. Obviously, there's this weird friction. Getting people to actually watch a video is really tough, but you can always collab with other people. You can always find your way. My inbox is always open if you're starting a YouTube channel right now. But I 100% believe it's a complete meritocracy. If you're making great stuff that people want to watch, I'm starved for content constantly. When I go to my YouTube, I'm like, okay, I'll save that to watch later.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a couple, like me personally, I don't watch any mountain bike stuff. I watch BCPOV, and that's about it. And I'm starved for content. We're all starved for content. We are all watching this stuff when we're on the toilet, listening to podcasts constantly.
Yeah.
When you make something good that people can just be like, whoa, did you hear what Brian's doing? Oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's not really like that. As you can see, the views on these videos have been terrible, but that's okay because I'm building towards something, and you build the community, and people are not seeing writing videos, so they're not as interested and all that stuff. But my answer
is, or do you think it's the editing? Like the actual story.
Yeah, it's like it's clickbait, right? It's all that legit bait, as we like to call it now. Of like, people will watch a video that's me vlogging if you can actually get not trick them, but you can actually make the cover of the book enticing enough to be like, oh wow, I'll go along on that ride, versus you vlog over and over and over again and people are kind of expecting what you put out. So, I've spent 5 years putting out mostly writing videos. I've done van stuff, I've done workshop stuff, I've done all kinds of random stuff. But when you spend all that time, when you look at a BKXC video, you think it's going to be a writing video, and then when it's not, it's like, okay, take it or leave it. Just like with Seth's stuff, it's like, okay, he's bought a $200 bike and he's flipping it. I don't know. I'd rather have him like doing some crazy goofy thing. Yeah. There's different tastes and different things, and there's 500,000 people that will watch a Seth video no matter what it is. There's 25,000 people that'll watch a BKXC video no matter what it is.
Do you? How do you think that? Do you think that your subscribers are like willing to have you change your platform? And yes and no. How do you feel about that?
I think creating videos is such a weird personal thing, and you're getting feedback and you want views, and you do something and nothing happens. That like, I just have to be happy with what I'm making, and I'm totally love all these videos. I love these types of videos. I love doing the projects. I'm totally happy with it. Some people aren't. Some people are kind of over it already, and I've gotten messages on Patreon and stuff like, hey, I'm bailing out, and that's fine. It's totally fine. But like, I have to be sane first and foremost to build something, and eventually when we actually build this thing and people will come to actually visit and stay, it's super cool. But there's all these it's, as a creator, it's just ridiculous. It's the complete head game. The whole thing is like, oh, they don't like me. Oh, they like me. Oh, they don't. Oh, I don't even know why they like this video, but they didn't like that video, and it never ends. So your mental health is always like the number one thing to fight for.
Yeah, it's really tough. Like, I mean, I'm not anywhere near your level of success, but I can relate with you in the small wins and losses that I've had, and it's like. Emotionally, it's kind of hard to like, because you put a lot of your heart into things that you're creating, and some of them you think are going to do really well.
This is it, and for sure.
Don't, and then it's kind of like you look at those analytics and you're like, wah, wah, wah.
Yep, I could be digging a ditch right now and earn more and get more stuff, because that's the definition of burnout. Is whether you're a nurse or a ditch digger, is you put effort into something and you get the reward that you feel is equal to like the effort you put in. When you get the reward, whether it's a pat on the back, whether it's views on a video, whether it's the pay for working at the convenience store, when that's less than what you put in, you're like, huh? And then less and then less and then less. You're like, there's no reward in this for me. And luckily, there was always a reward, and I'm at a place where I can experiment and maybe do something that people don't really like, and there isn't a huge reward in it, but it's intrinsically rewarding. And then I get back to paying the bills because I need the videos to actually do good.
Yeah. When you first started, you quit like around 5,000 subscribers. What number of subscribers, and I know this is kind of, there's some other like variables that could make this, make more sense, but we can get into that in a minute. But what number of subscribers is it where you feel like a person could like replace a job that they make like 50 grand a year or something?
It's tough because like the subscriber number, as we know, is like completely useless now. Like I have 444,000 subscribers and my last video got 25,000 views. So you basically have to throw out subscriber numbers, are completely pointless.
You feel like it doesn't mean anything anymore.
It doesn't mean one thing at all whatsoever. It's all about how many views your videos get. But, I would say in theory, and I'll still stick to this theory, if I was doing everything I possibly could right, with merch, with sponsors, with deals, I think anyone should be able to earn $1 per subscriber per year. Obviously, I'm not making $1 per subscriber per year, but when I quit my job, it was like, okay, if I get to 75,000 subscribers, I bet I've got a good chance at making $50,000 a year. That was kind of, I think that would work out, that math would work out that way. Right. And if you're super optimized, like Seth, 2 million subscribers, I think if he was like just doing it every single, like ringing out, and it gets to be a little bit much when you're ringing out every single dollar, but like I think he could clear $2 million a year. I totally believe that. If I was like working harder and I had employees and all that stuff, I think I could get to that level. But it's like, who cares at some point, right? But
it's gotta be like what you're comfortable with too. Like,
oh, totally. And my life is so amazing with I can dictate my time. I can do this. I can do that. Like the freedom, all these things are amazing. But like, as a rule of thumb, you just gotta make 1 million views a month. Maybe that's the new thing instead of subscriber numbers or something like that. Because I've consistently probably done 2.5 million views a month. And it's funny how consistently it's been the same, and it kind of goes up and it kind of goes down. And there's series where I did really good, Czech Republic and the UK, like every single one of those videos had tons of views and that kind of stuff, so the income kind of goes up. But it's an interesting wave of the analytics and all that stuff. But entertaining people, finding a way to like, wow, I like this thing and this is really cool. What's gonna happen next?
Yeah. It's tough to know, because like different. It's like you base your success on these like analytics, and they're so, they could be so different, It's
a black box too. If anybody knew, here's the secret to YouTube, and then everybody would be doing it, and it would all work. And it's such a bizarro game. Fame. It's like such a weird. It's a entertainment. It's like if you went to Hollywood today and you're like, I'm gonna make it. No, you're going to be waiting tables at a sushi restaurant.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. How is it dealing with like the amount of people that come up and know who you are while you're out in public?
Oh man, it's been a long time since the last time somebody came up and said, "Hey, Brian, I watch your videos." So I'm like, I live a friggin' great life when it comes to that. But it's
you're flying under the radar.
Oh, completely. It's like, it's ridiculous. So it's awesome. But like, there's always awesome, great anecdotes. When Sarah and I were driving back from like Virginia, we were in one of those like Winnemucca, Highway 80 like side stops, and we got on the freeway, and there was somebody like a couple like waving at us, and they're like, we're following the 50 plate shred, because I was doing that Instagram thing where I was trying to get all the 50 plates, and I was that's so cool. Like there's all these little happy moments and stuff. But it's always great. There's always some anecdotes. Like I remember, I apologize if anyone was there who watched this, but I was with Seth at Rockville one time, and this gaggle of people came up. It was, the guys that run 20 to a group, and they were like, oh, let me get a photo. It's like, hey, we'll take one photo. There's 20 guys right now. Like, this is just ridiculous. But that's about the worst it's ever been, So it's always nice. Like, and it means something, right? Because I'm in this weird bubble where all I see is a number. I see the comments on YouTube and stuff, and it's awesome. It's all, but like I really focus on the Patreon comments because I can actually go back and forth.
Yeah.
But really, it's just this weird number. It's my income, it's my views, it's all weirdly tied together. And somehow I've been able to break away enough where it doesn't completely affect my self-worth every single day. Like, I don't even check my YouTube stuff. Like, when I hang out with other YouTubers, it's like, okay, how's the video doing right now today that I just released? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that video came out. So I'm a little bit level of zen on that level, which is really nice.
It looks like Sarah says
oh, yes.
randomly got spotted in
Times
Square recently in the middle of Boston. Yes.
Okay. Those are good spots. I got to remember the Boston one. Oh yeah. Okay. So Times Square, me and Sarah were in New York because her sister got married. We went, it was in Poughkeepsie, but we stayed in Manhattan because it was like, oh, let's do this. And that was like actually, what do you call it? Mid-COVID, post-first wave, where stuff was open. So we were in Times Square and there's like all this stuff happening. And this lady came up to me and she's like, are you the guy from YouTube? Because the husband wasn't like ballsy enough to come and say, hey, are you Brian? And so it was really, really neat. Like in all that sea of people, I got to say hi and take a picture and everything. And then, we were in Faneuil Hall in Boston, which is like the #1 tourist destination in America, I think. How many people come and go through there. And Sarah was watching a street show. They've got all these crazy like street performer type things there, and I was maybe going to the bathroom or eating ice cream or sitting down because it was like a big crowd kind of thing. And then I went over and joined her, and this guy came up and he's like, hey man, I saw Sarah, but he's like, everybody looks like somebody, but then when I saw you come up, I knew it was you. So I was like, that was really cool. We got to meet that guy, take a picture, and it's awesome. But yeah, there's no crowds, there's no mobs. It's I go into bike shops like 9 out of 10 times nobody recognizes me at the bike shop. So it's like I live a completely charmed life.
You must have a good disguise, man.
I'm a white guy too. If you just have glasses on, like
maybe it's the tattoo that gives me away, man.
Yeah,
come with me all the time.
you're an imposing figure. You're like even in a normal day to day, you would take a second look and be like, whoa, that guy's kind of striking. It's like you have a presence. So I'm just blending in with everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's mostly when I'm riding like Auburn or Rockville or something like that, and I think the tattoo does give it away, but 9 times out of 10 most people are saying that like they'll hear me laugh,
yes
and then they'll be like, oh, I recognized you. Because...
me too. And I think if I'm riding with Sarah, it's like, okay, there's a chick and then there's this guy, and then it's an ibis, he's got the white helmet, like it takes a little while to like actually lock in real life.
But sometimes, it's weird though, it's like the other day I was on the American River Trail riding road bike, and this guy that I've chatted with on Instagram for like probably the last 3 years, like came up and he's like, dude, I saw you, I finally get to meet you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Weird. But it's like, for me, that's like only here in my backyard. Like if I go to anywhere other than Sacramento, like nobody knows.
Yeah. Man, it's so funny too, because like I'll be like, I remember distinctly in Moab where it's like, I got to take a dump. I'm going to this McDonald's just to take a dump. This is not the time for like the mob of people to come. Hey, what's up? Hey, it's like, I just want to get in and do my business and leave and not have the fanfare.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. I can imagine. I would imagine like Seth, especially living in a small town too, he's probably runs into that a lot.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's pretty insulated. I think it's tough. Like, I think he doesn't want to go out, especially with COVID and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So he's built himself a castle on the hill where it's like, okay, we'll get the groceries delivered, and it's an isolating life. But he has like, guys that come up and film with him all the time and that kind of. So he has enough actual good interactions and stuff. But it's definitely a thing if you go out with Seth in the real world, and like it's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know when you see him at like Sea Otter, which is coming up.
Yeah.
Like it's just there's a line of people to like take a picture with him, and it's like there's not a line of people to talk to anybody else in that event, and that event is huge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just,
totally.
It's kind of crazy to see in person. But anyways, do you think that you see any kind of like different ventures that you would like to try to like kind of try out on the channel? I remember a while ago you did this thing where you hired a filmer and you guys you had a name for it. It was like a
Wheels Down.
Yeah. So is that like a failure at this point, or is it like,
it's not a failure, but it's like, if you're trying to do a TV show, it's like, you better have money, because that was like a 2-man thing. And he was like, okay, next time we need a sound guy, we need this, we need that. And it's like, this video got 60,000 views. That's really great. I'm not knocking it, but I could go out tomorrow and get 60,000 views on a writing video like that versus like, but if you build it and you stick to it and you believe in it and this is what you want to do, of course it'll come through. But like, I love the live streaming stuff, and the live streaming stuff's only getting better. So I'm kind of like, at one point when I was in Arkansas, I was like, I'm going to spend like $4,000 on all this live streaming equipment to have like better, because I rode with Terry Berenson. He did a live stream in Arkansas, and he does all this cool stuff in New York City, Terry B. And he has this awesome setup where it actually looks good. It actually sounds good. It's like the real deal. He has like 2 cell phone data plans like that he has to pay for that like come together to actually make the stream 1080p. So I want to get into that, but that's one of those things where it's like, you buy the Nintendo today and the Super Nintendo comes out tomorrow. So it's like, I want to hold off, but I love the idea of live streaming rides and like doing a little tour of the city and like kind of doing maybe more urban, where me and Sarah buy dumplings at one place and then we go over here and we do this. And I
was watching that,
tons of ideas.
That Anthony Bourdain documentary.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, it was really good. Honestly, it was. And, but it reminded me of like, you and I had a conversation, I think, in Downeyville one year, and I was telling you, like, man, you could make that, like, show that culture of all these places that you're going. Like, I really thought that would hit, but, people are funny. It's like really hard to tell. Like,
definitely, like the 2 microphone thing now on my rides, where I can talk and like interview someone that I'm riding with. The first one I did was Woody Woodruff from Progressive Trail Design, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. There's so many good tidbits about mountain bike history, about Arkansas. And it's like, that video was like and so much with videos is thumbnail and title. We all know that, but like, you would think it's like somebody would be like, whoa, this is cool, and share it outside of our little YouTube bubble and be like, whoa, and maybe they did. Who knows? I don't know. But it's like, it's so funny of like, what, we just need to fill a tub with 1,000 jelly beans and put a bike in it. Oh wow, there we go. We got our 1 million view video.
Yeah, if we go out and buy buy a brand new $10,000 bike, drive to Auburn and throw it off the bridge.
Exactly.
Like, it's 1 million views.
Get good coverage, get a lot of good zoom lenses and stuff.
Because there's like channels that all they do is drop bowling balls off a high thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's always fascinating.
Yeah, it's like, hey, he dropped it off a building, he dropped it off a bridge, he dropped it off a bridge into a trampoline, he dropped it off a bridge into a car. It's like, how is this guy making $1 million a year dropping bowling balls? And I'm like over here fighting for a couple thousand views, man.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I need to throw my bike off a bridge.
But back to that topic of like, there are better ways. There's definitely more that I could put into the culture, to the food. There's always more. There's always more that I could do. And it's just like that comfort zone of, okay, let's pull out the iPhone when we're in this restaurant and all that stuff. That's like, I'm still a normal person. And I'm not, my ego isn't out of whack so much that I feel like I could just film in this grocery store.
Because the travel vloggers, I mean, they're doing that basically. They're
definitely
biking there, right? They're just like going there and talking about the food and whatever, and their channels are. That's why I thought maybe you could get like some crossover or something.
Oh, totally. And then it's like, people love it, but then you see the negative comments. Yeah, if I wanted the food stuff, I get it somewhere else. I want to see you ride. And it's like, one of those comments to 1,000 positives always lives in your mind.
Yeah, it's tough. It definitely is. Like, it's like if when Seth was doing like RC cars, and all of a sudden it was like everybody's like all upset, and it's like, dude, the guy can barely walk right now. Like, why are you?
He's into it. He loves it.
Yeah, but it's like people are all pissed off that he's not doing riding videos or something, and it's like, I don't understand what you expect right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting. So, when do you think you're going to open up the property to some of your patrons?
It's a big if, but we would hope to get one kind of beta site beta campsite done within the next couple months would be awesome, because we have all the tools to do it. But we'll get there. It'll be in the videos. You will know as soon as anybody else. But like it's gonna be a while. But I've got enough contacts, and hopefully we'll be able to do maybe some Patreon work days as well. Get people out clearing brush and stuff.
Oh, that'd be cool.
But it's so dangerous. It's so hot. It's so like we don't have running water. There's so much where it's like, I'm going to invite these people out here to get heat stroke and cut their leg off. It's like, that doesn't really appeal to me as much as just doing it ourselves and cutting our own legs off.
I would imagine there's probably some kind of insurance too that you need to like figure out.
Yeah, exactly. And right now it's like we've got kind of general umbrella stuff, which would cover it. But it's like, even if if somebody's sued, it's like, it's just always going to be a worry. And it's like, you're inviting people into your home, basically, even though it's this ruthless piece of land. And people would love it too. But there's always a balance of how many strangers we really want out there versus our inner circle and all that. We're thinking about it.
Yeah. I definitely want to get up there.
You're part of the inner circle. You are welcome to come up.
Yeah, I am. I made it up there just to kind of see the place, and when we were up there riding, and I have every intention to get up there. My summer has been, I don't understand how I'm so busy, but like not busy. But you know what I mean? Like sometimes where you're like, how is it that like every weekend something is happening that like I can't get to the things that I want to do?
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. And that's the amazing. Yeah, that's the thing with me and Aaron. Like we're kind of full time and like, hey, on a Monday, on a Tuesday, we can do whatever we want versus all the, normal people. It's like, I got family, I got work. And Joe, Colorado Kid, he's been awesome. He's been up there several times, and people make the choices they make, and they have the life they want because of making those choices.
Tesla robot.
that mustache gives it away.
Yeah, I'm serious. I think he is, because the amount of editing that he gets done, and like he's up there building, and he has a family.
Dude, it's like when you think about it, okay, you watch that Anthony Bourdain thing. I've watched Rick and Morty. Like, how many hours have we just spent kicking back on the couch? That's 100% what it is. Or looking at our phone while we're taking a dump. Like, it's the sit back and relax is so... It's the best. I do it every day. I'm like, okay, I've worked. It's 6:00. I've worked enough today. I'm going to sit back. But it's like from 6 to 10, you could be learning a whole new thing. You could be doing a whole, like, we all have the time. It's all the choices we make.
Yeah, that's definitely the truth there. Aaron says there's no mountain lion insurance.
No,
either,
not yet. Better watch out. The ghost walker is among us.
Man, you guys got some big animals up there. Like,
got them all. Basically, the thing that we got to see is the wolf pack. So there's a wolf pack. There's a couple wolf packs in California that they know of. There's only 2 or 3, and one of them is called the Beckworth pack. And Beckworth Peak is only like 5 miles as the crow flies from our property. So at some point, that wolf pack might come through our property. I mean, we've had mountain lion, bobcat, bears of all shapes and sizes.
They've got some pretty big ones up there.
Yeah, no coyotes yet, but like we've had it all captured on the game cameras, which are the friggin' best. Like, there's nothing more that I love about that property than checking those game cameras and seeing what was going on during the night, 5 feet from your friggin' tent. And so we've been so lucky with that, or unlucky, however you might want to think it. Because if you go out in the middle of the night to take a leak and you don't have your headlamp, it is completely terrifying.
Oh, I can imagine, especially after you've watched all the animals walking around.
Walk by on that road right there,
Right, so, I can imagine just from, like, the night riding that I've done. Like, you hear a mouse in the woods and you think it's a Yeti, so, like...
Yeah. Like Joe says, he's sleeping in a tent. We're, like, encased in vehicles, so it's all good.
Yeah, right. Definitely, I was thinking about that myself as well. I was like, if I come up there... be sleeping in a tent, like, how is that going to stop Mr. Bear from like coming over and just
you get the bear spray, but I think all of us, like, I'm gonna have to go through my little gun safety course and get all going with that, just so you feel like you would have a chance, if you're packing a little heat versus the bear spray would work too, but I think all of us are gonna be armed and dangerous.
I would imagine. I can just picture that scene from that DiCaprio movie where that bear.
Oh, the grizzly, man.
Yeah,
It's funny because one of those, I don't know if it's happened in the video yet or not, because I kind of save all the animal compilations, but one of the bears is just so ridiculously big. Me and Joe were going back and forth. He was like, that has to be a grizzly. It has to be. It's got the color. It's got the this. And then we're like analyzing the shape of the hump on its back and the way it's like, it's not, grizzlies have been extirpated, as they call it. It's not extinct, but when something's been killed off. But eventually when that bear gets in the video, it's like, this is the biggest damn thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. I want to say I've seen it, but
there's a couple different bears, but
yeah,
I call them
I'm
like.
not sure if I've seen it like in person or
and I don't even know if I've edited it yet, so it's all to come.
I know there was one that I saw in something that I was like, holy shit, that thing is huge.
Yeah,
but nonetheless.
Yeah, maybe Instagram. I posted one on maybe Instagram stories or something that was one of the bigger ones.
Yeah, so man, holy cow, 2 hours. That went
like that.
Super quick. It's been a good time chatting with you, man. I definitely looking forward to getting up to the property here in the next few weeks probably, and being able to help you guys out, and hopefully the fire doesn't start pushing its way that direction. And it would be nice if we could get the rest of them to go out so we could maybe get a little riding in Tahoe before the
pray for rain.
Yeah, right. Rain, but no snow.
That's all we would want. Like, it's crazy. When I visit Asheville, it's like rains every day. Like, it's just crazy that we've got the best of everything except for rain.
Yeah. I always joke around that like every place couldn't have everything, right?
Yep. Like, and we're only missing like one thing. Yeah.
So that's definitely the case around here. So it's weird too, because it's like the East Coast and like even like Arizona, I think, has had like record rainfall this year.
Oh yeah.
And us, on the other hand, is
it comes and goes, just like when they show those pictures of the Lake Shasta, where it's like, oh, there's nothing, and then the next year it's full. And
right. Yeah, definitely the case there. So
I'm gonna pee my pants if I don't go.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up then, man. I really appreciate everything that you've chatted with me about. It's been a good time. Everybody out there, if you guys have the opportunity to swing by manscaped.com, go ahead and grab yourself a new razor over there. Get 20% off with the biker code, so B1KER. You get 20% off, free shipping. Check that out. If you want something for free instead, go to Instagram, do that thing, hit the button over there. If you enjoyed this, hit the subscribe button, the thumbs up. If you're listening on a podcast and you enjoyed it, write a review, man. I just swung by the Apple reviews there just the other day, and what do you know? There was a bunch of new ones there. It was fun to read them. Thanks to you guys that went ahead and did that. And then for the rest of you guys, I want you to remember one thing. It only takes a bike to be a biker, so get out and be one.